Want to get to all your businesses, but first, just explain to our viewers why Liberty Media is doing this so-called reattribution.
Well, I think there are several benefits. First and foremost, we've always thought that Live Nation and Sirius, through our LXXM stake, were more closely and strategically aligned, and putting them together made sense. And the opportunity to both strengthen the Formula One balance sheet and use the strong balance sheet at LSXM to take advantage of the opportunities at Live are attractive. So we end up with a more focused Formula One, a stronger Formula One, and a Liberty Sirius, which has an opportunity to benefit both economically and strategically from its interest in Live Nation.
Does it also improve their balance sheets in some fashion, or at least prepare them better for the futures that certainly remains very uncertain for either business?
Absolutely. In the case of Formula One, where, as you note, there's uncertainty about how many races we'll be able to have this year and how much support we'll need to provide for the ecosystem of Formula One, we are clearing off removing $1.3 billion of debt at the parent level and adding quite a lot of cash. So we strengthened the F1 balance sheet and the Formula One, the F1 holdco balance sheet above it. In the case of LSXM, Sirius and LSXM, our holding company for that, have a very strong balance sheet, and they're able to take advantage of the opportunities of Live Nation, which has volatility and has risk. That stock has moved and gyrated from a high of something over 76 in January down to a low of 24, and then rebounded to the low flat to the low 30s, and now is in the mid 30s. There's a lot of volatility there, but there's also opportunity, and Liberty Sirius has the strength to take advantage of that, and it strategically fits better over the longer term with the Sirius business.
Yeah, let's talk about a number of those businesses. Let's start with Sirius, which, of course, would seem to be fairly well positioned, but people may not be driving quite as much right now. And I wonder, are you seeing any weakness in people's ability to pay their monthly bill?
Well, so far, Sirius has not experienced that issue dramatically, but I suspect that there will be stresses on some of that over time. But the Sirius business is very strong. Subscription businesses, and we're blessed with a portfolio that includes subscription businesses like Charter or the GCI, the cable business in Alaska, and Sirius tend to do very well in these kind of periods. And I think that Sirius will have a very strong cash flows despite, slower new car sales and the like through 2020.
Yeah, that was slowing new car sales seem to be a key part as well. But you're not concerned at this point. You are still chairman of the company, of course, Greg.
I am still chairman. You're always worried in these kind of environments, but I think Sirius has a very strong business. Lots of liquidity, has a $1.7 billion undrawn line, will generate a significant amount of free cash flow in any scenario. And yeah, you're worried about it, and you certainly are fearful of your customers and their pain, but I think that business is very strong.
All right, let's talk a bit about Live Nation, the stock of which is up 10%. So it is responding quite positively to this decision to reattribute the asset. Greg, when do you see the company actually being able to return to any sort of business? Forget normalcy, just actually have a concert held somewhere.
Yeah, look, I think Live Nation has the benefit of being very flexible on a global basis about where it will start concerts. There is both an enormous demand. They put tickets on sale in the last couple of weeks for concerts in September, and they've sold out quickly. They're in Finland, Norway, Australia, and Paris. So there's demand among consumers, and there's supply. There are artists who want to tour. The most important thing is rightly getting the health question. And I think you're seeing generally in the Western European countries and some of the Asian countries, plans now, which include no large-scale events into Q3, but the beginning of smaller-scale kind of concerts potentially, and then larger-scale events thereafter. probably the biggest challenge for Live Nation is uncertainty. And frankly, things like the United States, where there's a host of regulations about what in the 50 states about what clears phase 1 and phase 2, or all those things are probably more difficult than where they're getting more transparency and certainty in some of the other countries on a national basis. They do have flexibility, though, to run their business where if they can open in Seoul, Korea, or they can open in some spot, they can start touring there. It's a global business, and that has the benefit of being able to shift both artists to those places where they can open.
Right, which makes sense. But you mentioned uncertainty, of course. We've never faced a period anything like this in our lifetimes. And so we don't know. We have no idea if we're going to be in a much better position come the fall or face what some people are concerned will be a second wave. Do you feel as though the companies in your broader portfolio are well capitalized to withstand whatever is coming? Is there going to be another plan that you guys have that you would roll out come the end of the year if things are not as good as we hope they will be by then?
I think our companies are well capitalized. We took steps today in this reattribution to strengthen the capitalization of some and allow those with stronger capitalization to profit from the volatility. And I really think we're trying to do on both. But I do believe we're well capitalized. We're, through this process, adding $750 million of equity capital to the group, and we're only going to be stronger once the reattribution and the subsequent rights offering are completed in early June.
Let's talk Formula One for a moment as well. Of course, $1.4 billion going over there, other assets as well. Where do we stand on the season right now? You have scenarios, I know, for no races, for as many as 15 to 18 races with potentially no fans. What do you think is most likely in terms of the resumption of racing?
You're right, David. And Chase Carey and his team have, run scenarios from no races to 15 to 18. And I think the most likely scenario is we probably begin somewhere in Western Europe with no fans. That is obviously a good way to start for the safety of the teams and for the safety of the fans, but it's probably less attractive both economically for Formula One, but even perhaps more importantly for our teams, because the teams really need to see profits from us so that they can afford to keep themselves running. They really get a share of the profits, and to the degree that we are running low or no profit races, it may not be sufficient capital to keep them going. So we're trying to balance the needs of fans, obviously first and foremost the safety of fans and teams, but also how do we run races which are economically attractive, not only for Formula One, but for the teams themselves. And Chase and his team are working on that, but I suspect it starts with a Western European start with no fans.
But I can imagine, given how sports-starved everybody is right now, there may be opportunities, if you can get these guys in their cars, to access audiences that have not typically been available to you.
I think you're right. There's enormous demand, and Formula One has the benefit of being the fastest-growing sport on social media. It has the benefit of expanding its interest widely from things like the Netflix series Drive to Survive, which have really expanded. And in this time of no sports, I think they're only getting more attention, those kind of events. So you're right. People are starved, and I think when we do open up, we're going to see a lot of increased interest in Formula One.
Greg, finally, if it was a typical world, which I know we all wish it was, you and I might be trading barbs about the Braves and the Mets. You typically win that argument. Are we going to have a baseball season this year?
Well, I think it's an uncertain question, like many of these questions, but the commissioner believes there will be baseball. The real question is, will we have enough games to have a full credible season that allows us to have a credible produce, winners of divisions and the like, and have a credible off season. Baseball is looking at a lot of options. Many of those have been reported in the press, such as the Arizona bubble. But a lot of those haven't been reported, and I really think they're thinking very thoughtfully first about the health of the players, and then obviously secondarily the health of fans. If baseball does resume, it's most likely to resume, just as I talked about with Formula One, with it seems most likely to resume first with players only and no fans present. But things like the Arizona bubble have been reported, as I said, but there's a high threshold to try and make some of those things work in terms of getting people there and maintaining the health. And that's first and foremost the safety of the players, and obviously the safety of any fans if they participate is baseball's first goal. But there's obviously a lot of pent-up demand for baseball as well. Nothing says America's working better than baseball starting up again. So trying to balance that desire against safety is the key. And I think the commissioners all over
many of us would love to see a game on, particularly now. Although I wonder, how is the team positioned to withstand that? Do you stop paying players? And then I just wonder about the larger ecosystem that you know so well. ESPN, not anything to do with you guys, but how do they keep getting paid if they can't air live sports?
I think there are going to be, a lot of challenges to linear television during this time that are only exacerbated as we don't have live sports. You obviously have seen the trends around Netflix and the like, growth of OTT. That's probably going to put a lot of pressure on linear television. We're lucky that we're less exposed to those risks. We did things like Exit Stars several years ago, and we've concentrated on businesses like Formula One, but also like SiriusXM. And there has been enormous demand for SiriusXM programming. Things like Howard Stern's interview with Tom Brady got massive play. And I think our programming is very much what people want in this time, and the strength of SiriusXM's business is showing through.